Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar, Stayntouch Product Enhancements version 5.82, Custom Group Rates and Restrictions, Copyright Sets, and more, presented by Stayntouch Implementation Consultant, Julia Josephson. I'm your host, Erin Fisher, the content writer here at Stayntouch. Today's presentation will cover how you can get the most out of the Stayntouch PMS version 5.82 product release. In this webinar, we will cover the following enhancements: custom group rates and restrictions, external reference number actions recorded in the activity log, add children after reservation creation, copyright sets, in-progress room status indicator, credit check report now clickable, the option to enter pay-by-link text translation for confirmation emails, as well as the option to edit background color for pay-by-link, Toast POS revenue centers, and new Connect API enhancements. We'll have a short Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Feel free to submit questions throughout the presentation, and we'll answer them in the order they are received at the end. And that's all I have right now. Julia, I'm going to switch it over to you.
Great, thank you, Erin. Let me share my screen. All right, are you able to see my screen?
Yeah, all good.
Perfect. All right, everyone, welcome. I'm excited to show you these feature enhancements today, especially this first one, which is really exciting. So this one I know is going to be great for a lot of sales, reservations, and revenue teams, because you'll now be able to set restrictions, deposit rules, and cancellation policies for custom group rates. Custom group rates are used by a lot of hotels, so this is a major improvement that will help you drive revenue and collect individual booking payments for group guests. We're currently piloting this functionality, and after a successful pilot, we'll be rolling it out to everyone. So this is a little bit more of a preview for those that are not included in the pilot. If you're interested in being one of the first to use it and to test it, please contact customer support to let them know you're interested, and they will see if we have a spot open in the pilot or let you know when it is released for everyone. This functionality is going to enable an all new rate info tab here, which is specifically for custom group rates. From this tab, you'll be able to add many settings that were previously only possible for configured group rates, so for non-custom group rates that were configured on the back end. And once this functionality is enabled, you'll notice that a few changes have been made to the user interface of groups overall, including that there is this new rate info tab, and that the summary page, a couple of things have moved to that rate info tab and looks a little bit different. So when I create a new group block, I've come in here and put in all of my, my required fields. I can click save. And once I have saved the group block, I'm able to click on this rate info tab. I couldn't click on it before because I hadn't saved it. When I move over to the rate info tab, you can see that there's add-ons here, which was previously on the summary, as well as hide rate, tax exempt, and bypass CC guarantee. Those were all previously on the summary screen and still work as they previously did. There's this new custom rate add-on section down here that I will say is not part of this release. So I'm not going to cover this today, but this is more enhancements to come. And then on the right-hand side here, you'll see that I have a deposit requirements and cancellation penalties section. So just like when these were on the summary tab, I can toggle off hide rate if I want the rate amounts to show. I could toggle on tax exempt and bypass CC guarantee if I wanted to, and I could add add-ons. Within the deposit and cancellation penalty fields, you'll see drop-downs where you can select from your hotel's configured deposit rules and cancellation policies. The policies that appear here, if you're not familiar, are the same ones that appear when you're configuring a rate code. Those are configured on the back end within settings, rates, rules and restrictions, and then under the cancellation penalties and deposit request sections, respectively. So you can see I've got 4 cancellation penalty policies here, and I've got 4 options here. And ultimately, the verbiage and the actual settings themselves are handled in these back end settings. So what this is really allowing you to do is to select a deposit rule and a cancellation penalty that will then be applied to every single reservation within this group block. The deposit rule itself and the cancellation penalty itself, the description here will be displayed underneath. So these are the actual descriptions here that are displayed here. If you had a translation, it would display that instead. And those will tie into all areas of the PMS, like confirmation emails, and then even just actioning them on the reservation themselves. As before, if you enter a travel agent, here I'll add BCD travel, you can see that commission then appears, and that previously appeared on the summary tab when you added a travel agent card. Now, if I toggle on commission here, a big enhancement is that I can select which charge codes are commissionable. This is something that, again, is already existing functionality for back-end configured rates, but was not previously an option for custom group rates, in that you were not able to say that custom group rate travel agent commissions should only be on the room charge rather than the totals of room charges and tax. All rules, as per usual, still apply where the travel agent needs to be commissionable, etc. If you're attaching a travel agent, this still attaches them to every reservation in the group block. The only functionality change here is that you can choose which charge codes are commissionable. And then let's look at the exciting new restrictions functionality for custom rates. So that is in the room block details tab, of which you are already familiar. I'm going to quickly add some inventory here in rates. So I'm going to say my standard 2 queen beds is going to be $295, and my standard 1 king bed is going to be $250. And then in order to view restrictions, I want to add some inventory. So let me do that here. Hold 5 of those and 5 of those. And now I can toggle over to the rates tab here. And this rates tab already existed. You'll notice that the add rooms and rates button, which previously appeared right here, is now here. So if I wanted to add more rate codes, more room types, I would click add rooms and rates here. But what also has changed in the UI is that I've now got this show restrictions checkbox. When I check that, I can see that I've got close to arrival options and minimum length of stay options, and I've got them for the entire group block, for all of the room types within a specific date up here at the top, or within a specific room type within a specific date. So if I wanted to, I could set a 2-night minimum length of stay restriction that would apply here. That would apply it across all dates, all room types. If I make a change or remove it, it gets removed. Let's say I only wanted to apply the minimum length of stay restriction of 3 nights on Saturday across all room types and 2 here. And perhaps I don't want to allow arrivals on Saturday. I could close to arrivals by selecting this here. By selecting it here, I've closed to arrivals for all room types. If I only wanted to close to arrivals for certain room types, I could do that here. And again, if I remove any of these, it just removes them from all of the room types, etc. One thing that's important to note is when you apply changes, for example, I have a close to arrival on standard 1 king bed here on the Saturday. If I hit close to arrivals to apply it across the entire group for all dates, it does that. And then when I remove it, it removes it from that one where I already had it applied. It's just a note. Ultimately, when I'm happy with my restrictions, which let me say I'm going to do 2-night here, 3-night here, and then I'm going to close to arrivals here and here. Ultimately, once I'm happy with the restrictions I have set, I want to save changes. that has saved the restrictions I've set. And if I go to make a reservation, actually, let me start with the dates and put in just Friday for one night, and select the Annette Summers and Kenneth Luna wedding that I just created and hit find rooms and rates. You can see that I don't get any availability, and that's because I had that minimum in place. When I hit show restrictions, similar to normal, when a restriction is applied to a rate, you can see that I have that in play here. If I were to search for a, let's do 3-night stay, you can see I do get availability without having to show restrictions. That's because my search does meet the criteria of my restrictions. So this is really exciting. It's going to make things easier for your reservations team and help your sales and revenue teams drive revenue. And as we mentioned before, you have the deposit and cancellation policies now on the group blocks. I'm going to come in here to a group block, and here I've got a 100% deposit due at the time of booking. If I click on a reservation, let's try this one. When I come into the reservation, I'm getting a prompt to take a deposit, and I would have gotten the prompt to take the deposit when I made the reservation if I made it outside of the rooming list tab. And that, any of your auto deposit processing rules will also kick in there too. Let's say I process the deposit. And now if I cancel the reservation, again, because I have a cancellation rule, it's prompting me what that rule is because I'm within the cancellation window. And it's prompting me to not provide a refund. As a note, just to be really clear, we'll check for restrictions when creating a reservation from the dashboard or via the front desk and create reservation screen, online via a CRS and so forth, but the system will not check for restrictions when creating a reservation via the rooming list tab. So if I were to enter reservations from here, it's not going to validate the restrictions. And again, make sure that you save changes every time you apply a restriction on that room block details tab within the rate section if you make any changes in order to ensure that they apply. When you've made a change, the save changes option will appear, as well as discard changes if you don't want to save. All right, moving on to the other enhancements we have. We have an enhancement where the external reference number actions are now recorded on the activity log. So if I come into a reservation and I look at the external references, this is a demo site where I don't have a CRS connected, so I don't have any existing external systems, external system references. But let's just add one here. So now that I've added it, that's been recorded on the activity log. And let's say I change it. That's also going to be recorded on the activity log, as is if I delete it. If we look at the activity log, we'll be able to see all of those actions here. We have this add external reference from when I added it initially, the edit external reference action for when I changed the number, and then remove when I deleted it. The next enhancement is an important logical bug fix related to add-ons that are priced per child. So in a reservation where you have children, which would be, for example, here, let's say I had a child associated with this booking. And if I had an add-on that was calculated with a price per child, this enhancement addresses a scenario where the child add-on was previously not being added to the room after children were added to an existing reservation. So nothing major here, but just a bug fix that we wanted to make sure you're aware of. This will be really helpful for hotels that use packages with add-ons priced per child. The next one is actually a really exciting one too, that I, as a former revenue manager, am definitely excited about. So I've come into the backend settings, into rates, and the new enhancement is that you can copy rate sets here. So I'm going to navigate into a base rate that I have here, an Amazon negotiated rate. And you can see I've got some previous date sets with different amounts. This one has, Monday, certain rates for Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and then certain rates for Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. I have different values in here for each of these days of the week ranges. I've got extra adult and child amounts, etc. And previously, when you wanted to add new dates, you had to enter all of these values again, even if they were the same. So now when I go to add a new date range, I add the date range, I put in the dates that I want, then I hit configure rate as per normal. But now we have this copy date range option here in the top right, where I can choose a previous set for which I want to copy the data from. So let's say I want those varied rates for my different days of the week, and I want them to be the same. I can copy it from this set that I looked at before into this new set for these new dates. Once a date range has been copied in, it can be edited. So let's say it was, very similar to this, but maybe I actually, the extra adult and child amounts are staying the same, but I actually want to increase this $4. So I'm going to increase this to $169. Maybe I copy this down through single occupancy, then I use the arrow to bring that over. And now I can still save this copied set, and it made that change here. Changing the rate amount on copied sets, changing the rate amount on existing or copied sets does not update existing reservations as per current functionality. And as shown here, if there are multiple rate sets on a date range that is copied, meaning that there's different rates for various nights of the week, all of those will be copied over into the new date range as well. When the rate is saved, that is noted on the activity log here. So we can navigate back up to the rate details, and you can see all of these changes that I just made right here. You can see that I created a new date range. This was the dates. And then I copied it from the date range with this ID, and that I also changed the rate amounts, and that's true. All right. The next enhancement is going to be really useful for hotels that have their housekeepers manage their boards on a mobile device in particular, or on an iPad, that kind of thing. So if I navigate into housekeeping and task management, I've already assigned my boards for the day. And if I look at room status, I can see who each of them are assigned to. I've got room 105 here. It's dirty currently, and it's assigned to housekeeper 1. I've got another tab here where this is housekeeper 1's board that they're managing on whatever device they're working on. And so this still works the same exact way for the housekeeper, where if they're now going into room 105 to clean it, they click on 105, they say start. The big change here is that if I refresh this, there's now an in progress status indicator here, which tells me that housekeeper 1 is currently in this room. And then when that user selects that they are done, that room updates to clean as per normal. Again, this workflow didn't change for them at all. But when I navigate back into room status, we can see that they're no longer in that room, and the status has been updated as per normal. As a note, the in progress indicator will appear on both desktop and mobile views. And it will also be removed by any housekeeping room status update. So if I were to, let's say that this housekeeper goes into room 130. So again, let's come into room status. I can see they're currently in room 130. And let's pretend like they did not end up finishing done. And so it said that they're still in this room, but you know, I walked to the floor and I saw them and that room is finished. They just haven't done it on their phone yet. If I mark this room as clean, the in progress status indicator will ultimately be removed. So you can see that it no longer says that the room cleaning is in progress. All right, the next one is, oh, it's again another exciting one. I was so excited about the groups that I was saying that that was kind of the most exciting, but I actually think there's a lot of good ones here. The next one is related to the credit check report. I already went ahead and ran one, so I'm going to pull it from my reports inbox. And a lot of you are probably already familiar with this report. If you're not, I recommend it. It's a great report to make sure that you're collecting the funds that you're owed. But here, the biggest change is that it's now clickable. So when, for example, I see here Bowen Willard has a credit card on file, it's authorized for $50. However, they're $75 over their projected total is going to be $75 more than their balance or how much we have paid already. So I have an authorization for $50, but I basically need $25 more. Before, you would have had to go into another tab or another window and action that. But now I can click right into the reservation. I can action that appropriately. So I'm going to increase the authorization by 25 so that we have 75 on hold. And now when I'm done, I can navigate back out to reports, which takes me back out to the credit check report where I can continue on with my work. One trick that I like here is that, especially now that you can click into it, is that it's easy to just sort of, highlight and then Control C or copy, Command C the number. So in this example, I need this much money. I only have $100 authorized. So I basically need $920.70. So that it's easier for me to not forget that number, at least me personally. I like to come in here and I can copy paste that. And then obviously I want to change this amount to reflect that I already have that 100. I'm going to authorize that and close. And that's all set. As a note, if you highlight the whole thing, you're going to have to remove the $sign or the comma. But if you highlight just the number, it's going to bring in typically without the comma. All right, the next enhancement is to the pay by link functionality. This is a newer functionality that came out maybe in the last year or two, and we've enhanced how it appears on a confirmation email. If you haven't seen this functionality before, I suggest you check it out. But I'm going to navigate into the backend settings. And so at this hotel, pay by link is enabled. If we look on a confirmation email, this is a reservation, I've got a deposit due, and this pay the due amount now button appears. Previously, this appeared as a link that just said pay the due amount now. Now it sticks out a bit more, it's a button, and you can control the verbiage and where you couldn't do that before. And you can also control the button color or the background color. So if I come back into my hotel, I'm going to go into my settings, hotel and staff, and stationary settings. And then I'm going to come to confirmations and cancellations. And because I have pay by link enabled, I've got this general confirmations and cancellation settings here. And I've got pay by link text where I can control the verbiage if I want it to say something other than the default, which is pay the due amount now. So if I, for example, want it to say, enter your credit card details, I can put that there. And then I can also change the background color of that button. So I can either select a color here from the color picker, or if you have a branding guide with hex codes that you're supposed to use, you can do that here and it will update the color correctly for you to match your branding. And I'm going to want to save my changes. And if I resend the confirmation email for this reservation, we'll see that my text and background color changes have been applied. So I'm going to send that email. It should come in just a moment. Here we go. So again, in this one, I had the orange background, which was the default, and the default text. Now I've updated the content. Oops. Now I've updated the text content and the color, and so now I have my background color is gray, and you can see the text that I entered here. If the text is longer than a certain number of glyphs, it's going to go on to a second or third line. It could be even longer, right? So I would suggest that you test it and make sure you like the look and feel once you've made those changes. And if you're interested in the pay by link functionality, definitely reach out to our support team to have it enabled for your property. In this example, this guest owes a deposit and we don't have a credit card on file. So we can click here, they can enter their credit card details. And once that's been accepted, it's now going to also say there's a deposit due, and I could choose to either change the credit card or to process that deposit as the guest on that card I just provided. So I can pay that. And on the reservation itself, that deposit is now paid, which is great for your team, and it confirms that for the guest as well on the screen. Again, if you have questions about that, I would refer to the documentation we have on Pay by Link and reach out to support for more information. One more thing I want to mention about those settings is that if you are using language functionality, so here I'm in language English, if I change this, for example, to German, the Pay by Link text, I can also enter, a translation. In this example, it's a translation for German. I save changes, and then if I were to send the confirmation email in German, it would come through with that text on the button instead. All right. Our next enhancement is hard for me to actively show you, but I'm going to pull up the release notes and describe it. So for those using Toast POS for your restaurant, there's now a revenue center listed on the check description on the guest bills. So if you have a revenue center configured on the Toast side, that will just appear on the Stayntouch side. There's no changes that users need to make to this, or you don't need to make any changes for this to happen. It just is going to happen by default if you have the revenue centers built on the Toast side of things. And then there's now an access code added to post and put reservations for Connect APIs. So reservations made through the post reservations API that include an object for access code will now have the primary company or travel agent card attached in Stayntouch PMS. And reservations that are updated via the put reservations ID API that include the object access code will also have the primary company or travel agent attached in Stayntouch PMS. Thanks for bearing with me through all that. We got through it. There were some exciting enhancements. I'm gonna hand this back over to Erin to wrap up and to answer any questions that you might have.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Julia. I'd now like to turn the floor over for questions. Remember, you can submit questions through the question box in the middle of the control panel. Let me continue sharing my screen. 1 second. All right, so the first question that we have, will the group restrictions functionality independently be independent from house restrictions?
That's a good question. I will have to follow up with you on that. I do think that they, I think it depends on how they're set. So I would have to test actually and follow back up. I apologize.
No worries, thank you. And then we have another question. When will the group deposit functionality be rolled out? That is pending pilot.
Yeah, so we have a number of hotels planned to test this functionality with to make sure that it works the way that we expect it will. Obviously, it works on the Stayntouch side, but in particularly what we want to test and make sure that things work with the different CRS vendors so that when you start to use it, it works as expected. So that's why it's still in pilot, but we will roll it out to everyone once we have had a successful pilot. I know that everyone will be anxious for this to come out of pilot into general release.
Yeah, and if you are interested in piloting, you can contact customer support. All right, I'm not seeing any other questions, but I'll give everyone a few more seconds to enter those. All right, since there are no more questions, I'd like to take to the floor to offer some final thoughts. So today we've reviewed the following enhancements: custom group rates and restrictions, external reference number actions recorded in the activity log, the option to add children after reservation creation, how to copy rate sets, the in progress room status indicator, credit check report now clickable, updates to pay by link, including text translations and the option to edit the background color for the button, Toast POS revenue centers, and Connect API enhancements. With that, I'd like to conclude our presentation. Thank you all for coming, and if you have any additional questions, feel free to email me at erin.fisher@stayntouch.com. Thanks again.